Hey everyone, and welcome to Skillcapped. My name is Dr. Zora, and in today's video, we're going to be reviewing the best audio settings that will allow you to hear absolutely everything in Valorant. Audio is an aspect of Valorant that can be easy to neglect, yet it is such an important area of the game. I know we all want the best crosshair, the best sensitivity, the best aim routine, etc. And people sleep on audio, yet if we think about it, you're constantly using audio in game. You're listening to footsteps, you're listening to comms, you're listening for ability sound cues, if the spike drops or gets planted, and so much more. Or if you're not listening to these things, you definitely should if you want to have a competitive edge. We're going to break down the best audio settings that you can set for Valorant, but also the best audio settings that you can set outside of the game as well, to make sure you hear everything crystal clear and know exactly what you just heard. So without further ado, let's jump right into the video. Starting things off with our question of the day, what are you using to listen to audio currently? There's going to be a huge topic for discussion today, as your equipment is going to be a big factor in how good your audio is going to be. If you don't have the right equipment, regardless of what settings you end up using, you won't be able to fully maximize the audio to sound like it should. We're curious what the community is currently using, so make sure to drop a comment below. And if you aren't using anything in particular, simply state that you're using regular speakers that are built into your PC or laptop, or maybe you don't even turn on your audio, which is a big issue for a game like Valorant. First up, the most important audio setting in Valorant currently is Head Related Transfer Function, also known as HRTF. You can find this setting by navigating to the audio tab, and the very last option on sounds is HRTF. HRTF plays audio in a simulated surround sound audio space. This will make certain sounds such as footsteps, reloads, and deathmatch respawns be rendered in 3D, thus making it more directional. This is a feature that makes it much easier for you to pinpoint other players based on certain sounds that are made. Not only that, but other sounds such as spike plants, spike diffuses, ability sounds, and more will be much clearer on where they're coming from. To show you how effective this feature is, let's compare. Here's an example of what audio sounds like when you're not using HRTF. And now here's how audio sounds like when you have HRTF enabled. Now if you aren't using headphones, these audio files may sound exactly the same, but if you are using headphones, you should notice that you can better identify where footsteps are coming from, as well as how loud or soft the footsteps are, which indicate how far away the player is when you have HRTF on. HRTF is a feature that was introduced a few years back in Counter-Strike Global Offensive with great success. Seeing how successful it was previously, Riot has now implemented it into Valorant, and every pro has basically enabled it to enhance their audio quality. This can make or break your ability to hear where a certain player is coming from, which can determine where you may want to position yourself or place your crosshair. If there's anything you guys will want to 100% follow in this guide, it is turning on HRTF. But do know headphones will be required for this feature to be truly effective. The next major audio setting we want to take a look at is VoIP Dux Music, which should be turned on. What this setting does is it helps lower the music volume of the game when team and party chat are audible. Essentially, if your teammates are talking, then other noises will be mitigated to ensure you hear what is being said. You'll find a similar setting in the voiceover tab labeled VoIP Dux Flavor VO, which will decrease the volume of voiceovers again when team or party chat is enabled. This should be turned on as well. We've all been there where we're in an intense situation and there's so much going on. Multiple footsteps, abilities, flashes, smokes, you name it. In the heat of the moment, you and your teammates may be screaming out comms, and it can be tough to hear those comms amongst all the noise. Turning on the two stated audio settings will help mitigate the noise and ensure voice comms are as clear as possible. In particular, we found this extremely helpful in clutch situations where teammates are trying to point out where enemies are located. Speaking of voiceovers, in this section of the audio tab, we recommend turning off Agent Flavor here. Agent Flavor is a feature that really helps to, make agents more lively. Examples of this include the banter that agents have with one another, and it really helps to liven the atmosphere in game. While this is certainly a fun feature that is well appreciated amongst players, it can be distracting for those who want to play at their competitive best. Here's an example of one of our favorites in the new map Breeze. Most of these voice lines won't occur in crucial moments of the game, but they can throw off a player's concentration, especially when they're trying to take the match seriously, and then get a random funny banter thrown at you. Again, this is for the really hardcore players that want the most competitive edge possible. Disabling Agent Flavor will take away these distracting voice lines and allow you to maintain focus on the game itself. With the voiceovers tab out of the way, let's continue on with the sounds tab. To have the clearest and loudest audio possible, we recommend having all the volume settings set to the max, with the exception of voiceover volume to about 75% of the bar. The reason for this is that we can't fully control when an agent or the announcer is going to speak. While they can give useful calls, most of the time those mid-round callouts are simple enough to spot out on your own. But there are times where these uncontrollable voiceovers can be triggered during an intense moment of a round. Perhaps your teammate with the spike just died and he or her is trying to tell you where the enemy is. You don't want his or her comms to be muffled by the announcer telling you, "Spike down A." This can make it difficult to hear the important call out that your teammate is giving, and hence that could potentially make the difference between a round that you won or a round that you lost. For this reason, we recommend turning the voiceover volume down just a smidge compared to the rest of the audio. This way you'll still get those fun and useful voiceovers, but they won't hinder your ability to listen to your teammates for comms that are likely more important than what the agents or announcers have to say. We found that just dropping the volume bar to about 75% hits the mark. With that, we have speaker configuration, and the two options in this setting are mono and stereo. The difference between the two are that with mono, the audio will be played back using a single channel, while with stereo, the audio will be played back using two channels. In layman terms, the additional channel with the stereo setting allows it to better produce with perception. This greatly assists with localizing sound better, which in a game like Valorant is absolutely monumental. Because of this, you're going to want to set speaker configuration to stereo, no questions asked. Going back to HRTF, we know the setting may not be for everyone. Most players do like it, but we found that a number of individuals just couldn't get into it and found that their sense of direction was actually worse after turning the setting on. For those first using HRTF, it will definitely feel a bit off, but eventually most people will get used to it and notice the difference. However, there are going to be people who are unable to adapt and have to turn the setting off. What we recommend for these players is to turn on a specific setting on Windows to enhance surround sound quality. All you have to do is go to the bottom right taskbar, right click your speakers, and go into spatial sounds. From there, turn on Windows Sonic for headphones. This setting creates greater surround sound and essentially mimics the effects that HRTF produces. Let's take a listen. This feature is available to all Windows computers. It won't produce as intense of an effect as the actual HRTF setting that is in Valorant itself, but it does a darn good job that most players will be satisfied with, and it gives enough directional audio that they can tell where certain footsteps or sounds are going to be coming from. So if HRTF isn't your cup of tea, make sure to give Windows Sonic a try. One thing to note is that if you end up liking Valorant's HRTF feature, make sure that you don't turn Windows Sonic on as well. The two settings can clash with one another and lead to inaccurate audio cues, so make sure you're using one or the other, but not both. To end this off, this is an obvious point, but something that players will highly neglect. If you want to have the best audio quality possible in Valorant, you're going to need a headset. This may sound pretty lame and obvious, but we can't take advantage of audio and utilize the tips we've mentioned unless we have a good headset. A lot of you may have answered our question of the day saying that you just use your laptop's regular speakers to play. While you most definitely can hear with these speakers, there is a major flaw with them, and that is that their audio quality tends to be quite terrible. In particular, speakers lack a very important trait, and that is virtual surround sound. Virtual surround sound is a feature that modifies sound waves to make the audio sound like they're coming from a certain direction and distance. An example of how they achieve this is where the audio will sound louder if an enemy is close by, or will sound quieter if the enemy is far away. This is a feature that is so important in Valorant. Knowing whether an enemy is in front of you, to the side of you, or behind you allows you to react quicker to catch that enemy out. Without the surround sound, it will be much harder for you to figure out where a player is and how far they are, and as such, it's going to be much more difficult for you to properly turn or place your crosshair in the right spot. And then from there, you'll likely get shot in the back or lose the duel. If we go over to ProSettings.net, we'll see that every single professional player uses a high-level headset, and it's for the same reasons. They need the headset to provide the best audio that will clearly help them figure out what is going on in the map so that they can react appropriately. If you aren't using a headset, you're nerfing yourself big time, so do yourself a favor and get one. Some players may be tempted to use earphones as it's something that they've already owned and believe it can provide a similar effect. And earphones are certainly better than nothing, however the difference in audio quality is still night and day compared to a headset. The only top level player who doesn't use a headset is Asu from NRG, however this is because he felt more comfortable with them, and he's reportedly had headaches occur when he wears the headset. So Asu acknowledges the headsets are better, but doesn't use them for personal comfort and issues that he had in the past. This is not to say headsets will cause headaches, in fact rarely will it, but they can be uncomfortable for some, and if you have certain conditions, you may experience some sort of symptoms. There are a ton of fantastic headsets in the market now, which can make it difficult for you to determine which one is the best for you. What we recommend is heading over to ProSettings.net, going into Pro Lists, and selecting Valorant. Here you'll find a wide plethora of choices, with the most commonly used headset being the HyperX Cloud 2s and Logitech G Pro X. Really with any of the choices here, you'll be pretty well off. Alright, so if you haven't already, still make sure to leave a comment on what you are using currently to listen to audio. We here at Skillcapped want to thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next. I'm Dr. Zora, and good luck out there.